Stewardship. Anita.
Good morning. I've been a member of this congregation for over 30 years, and I think this is only the third time I've ever stood at this pulpit and addressed the congregation. So I want to talk about the motivation for what brings me up here for this once-in-a-decade visit to the pulpit. And the first reason is to share some personal insights that I have about our congregation and the direction that I think we're heading. And the second is to tell you why I think that this month's pledge drive, the one that we're going to do next week, I actually believe is the most important one that I've witnessed in 30 years. So I know that's a powerful statement, but I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to start with my insights. About 2 months ago, I joined the finance committee. And I've done a lot of things in this church, but never finance. And as many of you know, who know me, I throw myself into a project. And so I realized that finance is actually about three things. Most people think it's about two things, income and expenses. But it's actually about a third thing, and that's achieving your goals, your mission. Because you got to do something with that money that comes in and comes out. And what is it? Are you doing what you're supposed to do? So some of my insights today are about, well, they're about all three things. So let's start with the first thing, and that is my insights about our congregation's mission. I'm proud and privileged to be a member of this congregation. And the reason is because we actually do something to change the world for the better. And we do it through our prayers, through our volunteer work, and a lot of it is through our funds. So I'm going to take a look at some of those things that we do and what I feel proud of. Let's talk about how people's lives can be devastated by natural disasters, by war, by homelessness. We make a difference. If you recall, this past year, we helped a family from the Ukraine that was displaced, and we made an appreciable difference in their lives. We contribute to global and to local organizations that really make a genuine difference. And we have a very active peacemaking mission here, where we raise awareness and we change people's attitudes that ultimately can change the world. Let's talk about another thing going on in the world and in our community, and that's hunger. We have hunger right here in our backyard. And this congregation houses the Ecumenical Lay Pantry. And not only do we house it, we provide some of the volunteers who staff it, and we provide food for the Ecumenical Lay Pantry. And as a result, we serve 120 families a week from the Ecumenical Lay Pantry. That's making a difference. Let's talk about drug addiction and mental illness. When I started looking into what we do with our money, I looked at the YDA, which stands for Youth Directives and Alternatives. I didn't even know what it stood for before. But it's right there. I passed it for 30 years. I didn't know what they did. I know that we basically give them a facility. I think next year we'll charge a small amount, but it's really nothing, almost nothing. And so part of our mission is to help support the YDA. And what I learned was that in each year, that YDA provides drug addiction and mental health counseling for 1,500 adolescents. So that building that I've driven through all the time, apparently 1,500 people have walked in that door and gotten services. I'm also proud of what we do for the children in our community. Our country is increasingly secular. We all see that. We all know that. Church attendance is declining. And for some children, their experience at weekday nursery school is the first time in their lives that they are exposed to the concept of a loving God. and that's making a difference. And then there's our congregation and our worship, the inspiring music that we offer to really fill ourselves spiritually. We do it in the pews here, we do it online. Pastor Rachel goes and visits people, but we are filling a spiritual need. And all of that is living our mission statement. If you take out your bulletin and you look on the front of your bulletin, you're going to see a mission statement there. And key elements are that we will feed the spiritually and physically hungry, that we will care for the sick and lonely, that we will nurture children, and we will reach out to those in local and global communities. And we do that. We carry out our mission. So that is the first part of finance, what we do with the money. Now let's turn to the second two, expenses. So when I joined the Finance Committee in September, I looked at the spreadsheets and the reports for the past few months. And then I met with Dennis Crowley, who's the chair of the Finance Committee. I met with Kevin McCurr, who is the financial manager. And of course, I started asking for more data and more data. And I actually wanted to see what was happening financially in our congregation for the past 5 years. And here's what I found. That over the past 5 years, our church's expenses have gone up a little over 9% in the past 5 years. I said, is that a lot? I don't know, the prices go up, is that a lot? So I actually looked for an independent benchmark, and it was the Consumer Price Index. And the Consumer Price Index shows that the nation's expenses have gone up 16% in 5 years. So we've gone up 9%. Probably good stewardship on our part. All right, so expenses have gone up. What about our income? So there's two main sources of income coming into our church. And by far the biggest one is the pledge giving. It's what, you're going to get a pledge card, and you're going to put in there what it is that you're going to give each month or each week. And what goes into that collection plate and what comes in from pledge giving represents about 2/3 of our income. The other 1/3 is from things like renting out the building, dividends on investments, special gifts, right? But you can't always count on that. That you have to budget to what the pledge giving is. So, now remember, our expenses have gone up by 9% over 5 years. Our pledged giving has gone down by 21% in 5 years. And that's a lot. What was even, in a way, I don't know, more startling or just interesting, is that most of that decline happened in 2023. So we were going down a little bit, in 2019, 2020, 2020, and 2023 came and boom, our pledge giving went way down. And I asked myself, why? Has the number of members changed? No. Went back over 5 years, they've changed by about 2%. Are people not fulfilling their pledges? That's not the case. When our congregation makes a promise to do something, we deliver. People, by and large, fulfill their pledges. Okay, so what else could account for it? What about the number of households that participated in the pledge drive? Bingo. We had an amazing decrease in the number of households who were pledging. I don't know why. And then I said, okay, let's take a look at those who do pledge. Is the amount going up or down? The amount is going down. So the average amount that people have pledged also has decreased over 5 years. So what we have is a situation where in 2023, fewer members gave, and they gave less. And it's another discussion to find out why that is, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Sorry, it's going a little longer here, but it's once a decade, so you have to deal with me. So how is all this affecting us? Well, there's a short-term and a long-term effect. In the short term, in 2023, we have a $60,000 shortfall in funding in order to meet our essential services. So we have a $60K gap we got to make up. Now, how are we going to do that? We have some emergency funds that we can dip into. I mean, like, we're not going to shut all the lights out all of a sudden, and we have emergency funds. But we're also looking for one-time donations to fill that $60,000 gap. But the bigger question to me is, what does that 2023 drop mean for our congregation's future? Is this an anomaly? Is it just like something that happened one year, and now in 2024 we're going to go back to where we were before? Or is this a trend? And if it's a trend, our congregation cannot sustain all those things that I mentioned at the beginning of my talk. So I'm betting on the fact that it's an anomaly, and that in 2024, we're going to change things around. That more people who didn't pledge last year are going to pledge this year. People who pledge are going to give more. But if we don't, then those things that I mentioned are going to wither away over time. So I have 3 requests. The first is, when you get your pledge card this week, increase the amount. If you didn't pledge last year, please pledge. And when you do pledge, prayerfully consider increasing. This is the brochure you're going to get. And on the back, there's some guidelines for how to basically get us out of this hole. The second thing is to consider doing this one-time donation. We have to close that $60,000 gap. On the back of your brochure, there is the pledge QR code, but there's also a one-time donation QR code. And or you can just drop a check. Everybody knows how to deliver money. You can drop a check in the basket, or Pastor Rachel will come and get it at your house. And the third request is more personal. And I'm really curious about what happened in 2023. So talk to me. I'm going to be at the coffee hour. Share your thoughts about why you think that happened in 2023 and what direction you think we're heading. Because I don't want to be standing here, doing this. I love this congregation, and I want to see us get out of this hole and turn things around. And the future is in our hands. I want to close with I have this visual image of our church. And our church is at the corner of Church and Main Street, right? And to me, that's not just a geographic location. I think it's very symbolic of where our congregation stands in our community. We do God's work from this place. We minister to Main Street, USA, from this church. And we truly are at the corner of Church and Main. And I hope we can continue that mission in 2024 and beyond. We'll be able to find out as a result of the pledge drive. I'll see you at the coffee hour. I'm good until for 10 years, right? Okay.